Hi, everybody. Today's transmission is going to be about when posting on social media is part of your soul's mission. This is a conversation that I've been hearing. It's been top of mind for me for quite some time, but I've been doing more one-on-one sessions with my community recently and seeing so many people in the same place, basically standing on this threshold of, I know that I'm meant to share online, even though I can see the energetics of social media are distorted, even though I don't quite know what my content style is going to be, even though my inner child is scared and I'm not sure how I'm going to pull it off, even though fill in the blank, they're still standing on this threshold of knowing I must step forward. I must lean into this uncomfortable unknown and allow myself to have a new experience and allow myself to become a conduit for whatever it is that God, creator, source, life, my soul would want to be sharing through me at this time. So this is what this conversation is going to be about. We had the first part of this a couple of days ago, and there were a bunch of sound and tech glitches. So I was just sitting in my meditation and I heard go have another version of this conversation. So that's what we're going to do today. I want to tell you about my story of being called to share on social media. At this point, it's been 8 or 9 years. It was really 2017 into 2018 when I answered that call. And I've been showing up in one way on the internet, one way or another since then. So I want to tell you about that experience of what it felt like to be called in that way, how I answered the call, the different things that I navigated. And as I tell that story, I want to highlight for you different pieces that will, if this is part of your calling, it'll help you understand more. If you're kind of questioning, am I really meant to do this? It's going to help create clarity around that. And if you already know, it's going to help you have a deeper sense of how to be moving forward. And those of you who are live, you are welcome to ask questions as we're going. I have a bunch of questions that people have asked me in DMs and question stickers over the last week or so. So we're going to dive in. I want to say that I am sharing this today also as part of a larger conversation that I'm having about social media and mission, and inspired by the program that I'm going to be running starting in mid-May. The group is already assembling. I'm running a small group coaching cohort for people who are answering the call to share on social media, either for the first time or like you've had an account, but if you're honest with yourself, it's like you've been driving a car that can go 100 miles an hour. You've been driving at like 10 miles an hour, and you've probably had like one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas, and you post. I hear from a lot of people, they post for a while, then they bail. There's a lot of, you've been facing that kind of inner resistance, or maybe you have had phases of sharing online, but you know that you're called to share in a completely new way. There's a level of authenticity where it's almost like you're going to be unrecognizable to yourself and to others with how you are showing up. And so I'm running this small group coaching cohort where we're going to go through everything that it takes to actually understand what you are called to share and to do it. This is on a spiritual level, clearing your channel in terms of your direct connection with God and your soul, and being able to be a clear channel, being able to express what it is that you are called to express. We're going to clear all of the many, many overlays that most people are navigating in terms of just, I'm sure if you can let me know in the comments, like if you think about posting on social media, it's like there's this immediate kind of mental wildness, craziness that starts where you're like, well, what about this? What about that? Or like a carousel and reel and TikTok and this length and hooks and oh my goodness, all of that. And, use this prompt or don't use this, like show your face, don't show your face, human design, like all of that noise that happens. We are going to sift through all of it and get you to a place where you have this undeniable feeling of I'm doing what I'm called to do. Because that's really what this whole thing is about. We can talk about social media, and I'm going to. We can talk about the energetics of it, and we can talk about how it connects to your business. That's going to be part of the program as well. But ultimately, for those of us who are on a particular type of soul mission that is about anchoring a certain frequency on the planet at this time, social media is just the third dimensional conduit for something much bigger. And it is about you landing more fully in the seat of your power as a soul, as an individual, and being able to trust that. And I have been, and I'm going to get into my story in a moment of how I was called into social media and my resistance to that. And it was quite challenging for me for some time. I've worked with so many people, hundreds of clients, if not thousands of clients and students over the last decade or so. And I've worked with many people who were at the very beginning of creating a platform online. And I've also worked with many people whose names you would recognize on calibrating their mission, people with big platforms already, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, very, very well-known people with a lot of influence and a lot of reach. The work that we do, no matter where you are, is really the same. It's the work of landing within yourself and knowing what truth feels like in your being. Because it's funny, actually, that it's slightly different conversations, but what people come to me when they have 100 followers or when they have 1 million followers, it's often the same thing, which is like, I'm trying to connect with what truth feels like for me. I'm trying to figure out how to feel at peace and calm in my body as I share. I'm trying to land in, it's funny how much I'm saying the word land. It's like land. I'm trying to, basically the soul is trying to descend into the body and use you like a microphone. And the medicine is similar, right? For everybody. When it's not just about transmitting information, it's about transmitting frequency. And it is also about telling your story. It's about the information that you give people, but ultimately it's as simple as I have a calling and I'm going to answer it. And then as I start to answer it, all of my fears and limiting beliefs and the cultural conditioning and other people's thoughts and beliefs start to come in. And why I am so passionate about this, I'm going to start my story in a moment. Why I am so passionate about this, Aquarius North Node, I always go to like the biggest far-reaching expression of something and then we bring it back down. I'm so passionate about this because my whole philosophy is like we are here to participate fully with life. And so when something is coming up again and again and again in our lives and we are drawn to it and pushed away from it, there is great freedom available for us in how we navigate our relationship with it. And when you have a calling to share on social media, especially when you're humans like, I don't want to do it, you have all kinds of resistance, the amount of freedom that is available for you to unlock through engaging with it, it's almost like just deciding that you're going to take up martial arts and you're like, I'm scared to do martial arts or I'm scared to rock climb. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to learn how to rock climb. Okay, I'm going to learn how to do a handstand. Okay, I'm going to become a black belt. And the process of that training frees you and turns you into someone unrecognizable that your mind cannot predict and your body cannot embody until you put in the reps. So with that being said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. And those of you who are live, it's always good to continuously update people as they're popping on to a live. We're having a conversation about when social media is part of your soul's calling, part of your mission. Please feel free to ask any questions as we go. So let's go back. I have always had this feeling of wanting to make a difference in the world. From a very young age, I had a very dark childhood. I lived in New York City. I had a lot of claircognizance about what was happening on the planet. And I was able to see on every level, there's so much that's wrong about what's happening, but there's something really good within me that I can see in other people. And I truly believe that we can change the world. That was my honest to God disposition, was like this, there is so much suffering and torture happening. And we can do something about it. And how do we do something about it? That question is what has really driven, it drove the better part of the first 30 years of my life. And I really looked up to people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela, even like Joan of Arc. It was kind of like the revolutionaries and then the rebel artists. So people like Prince and David Bowie and all of these kind of, eccentric, fluid, multi-dimensional artists, and then the people who were standing at the front of a giant movement for change. But not just any giant movement for change. One that worked, one that actually freed people, one that actually changed the fabric of reality. And this is this feeling of like, how do I play my part in doing that drove me. And from a very early age, I was looking for opportunities to lead, looking for opportunities to kind of like gather people together. I was like even very young in New York City. I was really one of the earliest causes I was a part of was trying to free all of the carriage horses in New York. If you know, but there's these horses that pull people around in carriages, and they are not living their highest timeline. They are not well treated, and especially weren't in the 90s. So things like that. And then even into my early teens, I started to participate in this and lead this group called Think Globally, Act Locally, with my best friend at the time. And shout out if you're watching this. And we would go around and we would give presentations to other kids in our school. Like I basically skip lunch and I'd be like, do you guys know this issue that's happening in the world? And I would, kind of blast them with the intensity of what was going on somewhere else. And then I would say, but we can make a difference. And here's how we can make a difference. And, think globally, act locally. And so I'm painting this picture of this, my true nature. My true nature was oriented towards leading, oriented towards optimism, oriented towards speaking a message that would inspire people, oriented towards best case scenario. There was my naturally arising life force was like, let's go, right? And I could see myself with the mic talking to a lot of people. Now, simultaneously, as often happens for those of us who have true soul missions, who are here alchemizing a lot, it was like I incarnated and then my whole life just began, the situation that I was in was doing everything that it could to extinguish my light on many, many, many levels. Like very dark experiences as a young person, completely unsupported on many, many levels. And I was in a family system that did not want the truth to be told. I would get I joke that it was like a bureaucratic authoritarian regime. If you know what that is, it's like the types of regimes where there's a party line, and then if you disagree with that party line, you will be taken out, if you go against the kind of authority. And this is obviously it's a power structure that manifests in many different ways on Earth. It manifests in families, it manifests politically, societally. And so the most important thing for you to understand for this conversation, some of you know more about my story, some of you are just getting to know me, is that I was from a very early age conditioned to feel like I would not be safe if I shared. I would not be safe if I said what was true. I would not be safe if I just let spontaneously arising emotion, good or bad, right, happiness or sadness, arise. And this feeling of, is really that persecution wound of be quiet or else. And so what was simultaneously happening, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to see in my story where you may have a similar thing, where you're like, I've actually always been called to do this, but I may have even created a personality construct that says that I'm not called to do this because I'm trying to keep myself safe. So by the time, it was very you end up very fragmented. So I'm leading these presentations, here's what's going on in the world, but then, this is technology, God bless, little thumbs up there. I'm leading these presentations, and then I'm having to give presentations in school on subjects that I'm less comfortable with, and I'm freaking out, like basically having a panic attack in front of the class, like holding my papers, like my voice is shaking, crying. It was really, my body was like, this isn't safe, this isn't safe, this isn't safe. Like, what if you say something that you don't plan to say and then you get in trouble? Really intense. And of course, I was getting it from my family system, but I was also feeling it from the collective energy. And many of us have many different reference points throughout our human lineage, whether you think about it as, everything's occurring all at once and there's a lot of persecution happening, whether you think about it in terms of past or parallel lives where you've experienced being taken out for being the light in a dark situation. My system did not feel like it was safe. Around that same time, I was asked to lead something in school. The teacher came up to me and she was like, I think you'd be great for this. All the teachers decided, we want you to do this. And it was going to require me to be in front of everybody, which is what I'm naturally designed to do, which is why she was like, hello, please do this. I laughed in her face like a completely dysregulated teenager. I was like 13, I think. And I was like, no. And I just ran away. I could still picture the shock on her face. She was like, what is going on? That's also pretty disrespectful. We're trying to give you this honor of doing this thing. But my system was pushing away visibility, pushing away leadership, because I was in this bind of, this is actually who I am, but it's not safe for me to be that. And so, long story, somewhat short, over the course of the next, let's just say, decade and a half, right? So this is kind of early teens to mid to late 20s. I was in this kind of fragmented posture where I was finding places to express my message. Right? Teaching is a big part of my gifts. So I was always like self-appointing to lead workshops on different topics. And I was a New York City tour guide. And I also started to do more corporate work and youth leadership development work. And I'm a 6 line in human design. So if you know about pre-Saturn return, 6 lines are doing so much, right? So I was just involved in so many different causes, food justice, environmental justice, helping get, I was part of the early farm to institution movement in around 2010, around that time, kind of 2008, 9, 10, 11, around that time, where we were bringing organic food and connecting farmers to universities and other institutions. And just my energy just wanted to be part of all these different things. Like, okay, this needs work, this needs work, this needs work. And within all of that, I was finding myself in places where I was doing what I'm still doing now. I was speaking life into people. I was helping people see that they could make a difference. I was helping people connect with their power. And glad this is resonating. Yeah, shout out to the 6 lines and shout out to everybody else as well. In this social media soul mission program that I'm going to be running, we're going to go through your human design and how it relates to all of this. So I was involved in many different projects, but it was always, there was some level of control. So even though in certain situations I was going into Fortune 500 companies as a bright-eyed 25-year-old and leading workshops on cultural cohesion and intergenerational healing for 400 people. And I was, that's intense in a certain way, but I was really in my element, teaching, facilitating, and I felt up against my edge, but still able to do that. But the challenge was to allow anyone else to see me, right? So think about it, 400 people or even 100 people in a workshop, that seems like a lot, but it is actually a very small amount, and it's very controlled compared to I'm going to share my message online and literally anyone can see it, right? So I felt safe from the fear of persecution because I was like, well, all the people in my life who've tried to take me out aren't in this workshop room and no one's going to watch a recording of this. So it's kind of like being with your friends. Everyone's phone's off and you're just you're safe, right? You're in this kind of contained environment. And so for a long time, I had the story that, I did know that I was here to make a big change, but I thought that I was doing it kind of in my highest expression already. Famous last words before your Saturn return, by the way. I still remember being probably 6 months before my Saturn return, talking to my friends, and I was like, what could happen in my Saturn return? I don't know, a complete spiritual awakening and reorganization of my entire life. So I had this story that I was a behind the scenes person, right? That I was, I don't need the spotlight. Social media was starting to take off. I'm not that kind of person. And then what happened is I fully surrendered to God. I fully surrendered to my divine path. I got sober. It was kind of this confluence where my deeper spiritual awakening was starting, which the way I describe that, it's like I always had a certain level of being able to see beyond the veil, a certain level of sensitivity, a certain level of awareness, but it was right before my Saturn return started. It was like my soul fully descended into my body and was like, cool, I'm going to run this thing now. You're not going to be in this like echo of your trauma anymore. And we're going to be who we really came here to be fully. And so it was this confluence of events where that's starting to happen. I hear the call, you need to get sober, stop drinking alcohol. I wasn't really doing any drugs, but it was like that as well. And you're going to go through a healing and recovery process, and you're going to share a message, and you're going to get out there and you're going to start sharing online. And I initially had a lot of resistance to that. I had a feeling of, what am I even going to talk about? Like, what am I going to share? And I did what many of you are probably doing, which you're like looking at other people sharing and you're like, I'm not really like that person. I'm not really like that person. Like, and it felt very daunting, like kind of going in and just walking into a room with tons of people and saying, okay, guys, like, here's what I'm going to talk about. And so it felt very uncomfortable to me. And then I was hit by the conditioning that my nervous system still hadn't unraveled, which was like, I'm going to die. Like, this is not safe for me to do this. And it was conscious, these people are going to judge me. And guess what? They did. But we're going to talk about that. You get to overcome it. Doesn't matter. If I leave you with nothing else from this, the whole moral of this entire story is when you answer the call of your soul, life gets better. So please do it. And that's as simple. That's really all I've been doing here. There's many different pieces of it, but really all of this is I hear the call, I answer it. So what did I start to do? I knew I needed to like bring a new level of discipline to my life. And I was passionate. I felt this is when I was every day saying, God, I surrender my life to you. I knew that something bigger was trying to emerge through me that I could not predict and I couldn't control. And so I knew I had to it was like this just constant surrender. Okay, what's next? What's next? And it was like all my cells were sort of stretching, saying, just like, okay, let more light in, let more possibility in. And I was having to do a huge amount of alchemy, going on these long walks, talking out loud with God. And that's basically just how I live my life now. But that was the first time I was really doing that. So I started to wake up early, and every day I would go into meditation, and I would do my prayers, and then I would journal, and then I would say, God, what would you have me share today? This is the basis of my morning meeting with God audio that is now freely available, and we have many versions of it within my membership as well. So it was my morning meeting with God. I would clock in. And mind you, at this point, I've left my last relationship. The job that I had that I was using to hide from my destiny had fallen apart. And I had basically like whatever change I was finding on the sidewalk level finances, right? I was minimal support system, truly flying by the seat of my pants, but I couldn't go into fear and control. I had to just go deeper into what is trying to express through me, because I know that as I do that, everything else is going to get figured out, which it did. So I'm doing my morning meeting with God, and then I just knew it was supposed to be Instagram. So I just started every day, put out a post. Initially, I couldn't even really make posts that were like my own quotes. I remember a friend of mine being like, when are you going to put like your quotes, Aaron? I was just doing like roundups, or I would like pick a quote from someone else and write a long caption. I was writing a lot in my captions. You can still go back on my old account and see some of those posts. And what I will impress upon you is that it is about making the road by walking it. If I had sat, and I did, bless me, bless all of us, I sat and was like, what is my message? What do I really feel called to share? And my mind tried to predict where it was going to go. But I couldn't predict where it was going to go because I was going beyond who I had been. So I had to show up every day and just share something that felt true. Share something that felt sincere. And as I did that, I started to learn what truth felt like in my being. I started to see that I had more to share about certain topics. I started to hear from beautiful people. Some of you have been there with me since probably 2018, which was like when things really started to pick up. And because it was what I was supposed to be doing, I started to have momentum. I started to pop up into this dimension where people who I previously looked up to were reaching out to me for support, reaching out to me to hire me, reaching out because they felt deeply moved by my message. And I want to emphasize here that there was a purity that was ringing so true because I was just letting myself say whatever felt most alive in the moment. And it wasn't perfect. I look back on some of those posts and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, damn, I need to take 28-year-old me's or 27-year-old me's advice. And other things I see, okay, like that was my first attempt at trying to tell that story. That was my first attempt at like trying to express that concept. And now I feel much more capable of doing that. So it's not about perfection. It's about getting started. It's about getting in the game if it is your calling. Next piece I want to emphasize, because most of the questions that I get, and thank you, those of you who are live, saying that that's where you are right now. Amazing. It is truly, it is my responsibility, and it is also my honor to share this information with you, because I'm really talking to my younger self. I'm talking to all of you, and I have a sense of who some of you are, literally and just energetically, because I'm seeing these big trends right now. I always see these different waves of leaders as they're called to step forward. That's part of my work. And I'm talking to my younger self. I'm saying, what would that version of me need to hear? So first, it's make the road by walking. Just start. I don't care what your human design is. Something daily is very powerful because it relieves you of the psychological burden of thinking, am I going to do it or not? Some days you're probably not going to do it. But if you have this rhythm of, I don't negotiate with myself anymore, and you're really training yourself to be in a place where at a certain point for your nervous system and your soul, it is going to feel completely natural and normal for you to share online. This is where there's like a big kind of push energy where you're like, okay, I'm building these new muscles. And then at a certain point, we're landing in this relaxation of, yeah, I put up a video. Yeah. I did an Instagram live. Yeah. I wrote an article. Yeah. I put my stuff out there. And that becoming much more of, it's kind of like, yeah, I went for a walk. Yeah, I, called my friend. Yeah, I clocked in and did what I needed to do for work. It gets to become a natural and normal part of your life if it's really part of your calling. And in order to get there, you have to do what I continue to do and what I did back then. And I think anyone who has a sense of a soul mission to be sharing a message online and who has, built a platform, and building a platform is also, it's not, the numbers just show you who's meant, it's a combination of your nervous system's readiness to be seen and then who is meant to receive your message. I know people who literally have multi-7-figure businesses who are just like 100% coherent with their soul's calling. They are like dharmically dialed and doing an incredible amount of work for humanity with an amazing community, and they have 5,000 followers, right? So this is also about the ego surrender of, you will have the number of followers that you're meant to have, and that will usually be less or more than you think it's meant to be, right? And over time, you can start to feel when those waves are coming. Like I can feel when more people are going to be coming in because I'm getting ready for them, right? Because I'm readying the channel in a different way. And I'm at a certain point in a new wave of expansion for myself, which I can share more about. So a little tangent there, or a little just like piece about numbers. If you're working with me on your social media, we're not looking at like success is a lot of followers. No, success is you deeply feel at peace in your being that you are doing what you came here to do. That is really it. Bhagavad Gita. We do the work, but we do not reach for the fruits. The fruits are not our business. Our business is to do our work. And when we do our work, the fruits are amazing. That's the paradox, right? The fruits are amazing. And all of this, everything we're doing is to come into deeper coherence with ourselves and with God, right? With Creator, so that we feel that we are not beholden to the physical world, right? That we don't need anything. Like I don't need social media to do anything for me. I am using social media. I'm being used by God, and social media is being used as part of that. So next piece I want to share about what I had to do is that, so I was emphasizing it's not about perfection. And also, even if it is very aligned for you to do this, you may feel absolutely horrible doing it. And I want to be straight up with you about that. This is not the type of horrible where your energy is being completely hijacked by these apps, because there's a level of energetic protection that you need to be blasting your frequency out. And I do that for myself. I do it with my one-on-one clients, and we're going to do it within this program. I'm very excited about this program because I'm structuring it in a way where, it's a small enough group, we have enough time, and I'm going to be an open book, right? And I've never done a program just about social media, only about how do you become this conduit for the frequency, the medicine, the message that you are here to share. So we're going to go very deeply into energetic protection. So feeling horrible about sharing online does not mean your energy is being siphoned by these apps and you feel incoherent and dysregulated because of something that we could actually manage for. What I mean is that if you are a bird, and you are a bird who's here to sing and fly, and you have had a naturally arising instinct to sing and fly your entire life, but then you went through a series of traumatic programming called your childhood and ancestry and collective conditioning that made you feel like you would die or something truly terrible would happen to you if you spread your wings and flew. And if you sang, you are going to have to face those deepest fears to a level that is going to be like you feel like you're stepping off a cliff to your certain demise in order to reclaim your capacity to be who you really are. And I say this somewhat humorously, but without hyperbole, because if this is part of your mission and it's like, and you're in this push-pull, which I know so many of you are, you're like, okay, I want to do it, but like, what am I going to say? And can I do it? And then what if this happens? And the back and forth is because your inner child, your nervous system, your body doesn't feel safe doing it. And so what we have to do is create that sense of safety. So for me, my Chiron is not in Gemini, but Chiron in Gemini, which is like a lot of 80s babies, y'all really have this. You really have this. We were talking about this on a call in my membership recently. A whole bunch of people were saying, yeah, I have Chiron in Gemini, and Chiron is that wound, right? So if you have that, you are almost... Chiron and Gemini people will have the best excuse for why they're not supposed to be on social media. By the way, I'm not trying to convince you to be on social media. If it doesn't feel aligned for you, please go. I am here to serve the people who are frankly almost feeling, if they're honest, feeling a little bit tortured by the push-pull, right? Who are like, damn, I have been thinking about this for so long. I kind of feel like my life isn't going to move forward until I give myself a platform for higher expression, but I don't like the energy. I don't want to dance. I don't want to do any of this weird stuff. Just you're in that gears grinding. I'm a bird, I'm supposed to sing, I can't sing. I'm a bird, I'm supposed to sing, I can't sing. And your soul is putting the pressure on, because speaking of Gemini, Uranus and Gemini now, I'm really seeing a wave of new leaders being called to share more on these platforms. And this is, again, it's about your calling. It's not, you could see a million people say, social media is over, it's dead, it's whatever. Or you could read probably some great NPR, or what's that called? New York Times. NPR, New York Times, same frequency to me. Intellectual analysis of why you should or shouldn't do it. But the thing is that you have a calling, and there are people who are meant to be used as messengers, as conduits during this time, and who are right now, there is a new wave of people being asked to essentially blast the grids of social media with light, and to use the available technology to amplify their message, which is really to say to get certain frequencies to people. But also, many of you are practitioners. Many of you have things that the world are meant to see, whether it's art, whether it's your story. Yeah, David says it's not over. People are still here. Yeah, we're all here. Hello, right? But the tenor of it is changing, right? Which is honestly why those of us who have a coherent heart frequency we are needed at this time, right? We are needed to share something significant. We are needed to bring what is meant to go to people to the people, right? And this is one of the ways to do it. And you can feel me kind of balancing the energy here, because it is not about, again, it is not about you have to do it. It's not about if you have a message, it has to be online. But it is about, if it is your calling, you are feeling the freaking pressure right now. You are feeling, okay, it's time. So to go back to your, the healing that I had to go through in order to do this. And by the way, welcome to everybody joining. We're talking about when social media is part of your mission, and my journey with that, your journey with that. And I have an upcoming program where we're gonna go deeper. And by the way, if you're interested in learning more about the program, I have intentionally not set up an automation for it. You can just send me a DM of your choosing saying, hello, I'm interested. You don't need to do a specific word, and then I will reach out to you and I'll send you the information if you're interested. It's going to be limited spots because I want to be able to keep an eye on everybody. And we have an amazing group. I'm really excited about the people that are already in it, because the frequency is really strong. The courage, the creativity. We've got a good mix of different human design types. And yeah, if you feel called, just reach out and I'll send you all the details. Okay. So even though you're a bird and you are here to sing your song, you may feel like you are going to die if you sing your song. That's what happened to me. So, posting on my feed in 2018 Instagram, it's so it was so calm compared to now. It's like, here's my photo, here's my caption about my sincere life story. And that was okay for me, right? Because it's like you post and then you can kind of land. But starting to go live, starting to share my voice, first Instagram lives I would be freaking out, right? I would be right back there, 14 years old, freaking out in my English class, trying to give a presentation about something and not feeling safe. And so, but I knew that I had to work through it. It's like when you have a muscle that is underdeveloped, you have to develop it. And it is painful to do so. So I treated it like building capacity. So I would go live as much as I could. I would make videos as much as I could. And from that place of, okay, God, what would you have me share? And it was getting to the point where my audience was starting to say, hey, tell me more about this, tell me more about that. And I would do it. and I would be doing my tapping, I would be doing different nervous system regulation tools, I would be grounding energetically and literally to the earth, and then I would get off that live and I would crash. Like I would go through the feeling of like, I'm not safe, it's not okay, just, classic nervous system blowout basically. But I would just let it happen. I'd be like, cool, now I feel terrible, but I did what I was supposed to do, and I can actually be kind of neutral about it because I'm not going to let the fact that I feel terrible convince me that I'm not going to do my calling. I feel terrible because of the programming that I'm burning off. And so when I think back on that time, I feel so much love for myself. There's a wholesomeness to it because I was just I was just so close to my inner child. Yeah. Freeze response, someone's saying 100%. And I was just taking very good care of myself in the way that I could, which just looked a lot like giving myself a hug and just saying, I know you're scared, it's okay. You're going to be safe, doing subconscious reprogramming meditations. Started to create my own for that. And over time, I started to have the capacity to do what was once very scary. But there's a certain level of professionalism and focus that I'm bringing right now, a certain level of preparation energetically and mentally that I do for this. And there's always a little bit of a charge when you're in front of other people, or at least there is for me, right? Many artists report still feeling a certain, there's a kind of heightened energy when you're out on stage. But when I'm done with this, I'm going to really go about my day. I'm going to do some more things that matter to me, do some more work, spend some time in nature, right? And it's not gonna spike me in this really intense way. And even now, when I've been rebuilding my Instagram because my other account got basically permanently restricted for 2020 related reasons, and I've been building this account, and I've also been building an account on TikTok for the first time just over the last few months. And because I've been now in a phase of knowing that I'm meant to be sharing more, because for the last few years, honestly, I was navigating the latest level of preparing myself energetically for more expansion, dealing with other layers of parts of me that were scared to be seen even more, right? Because now this is normal. I'm like, talking to like a couple thousand people, very normal for me. And even as I've been posting on TikTok and more here as well, I've had a bunch of videos go viral, right? Hundreds of thousands of views. And my nervous system is like, cool, we know this is happening, right? This is normal. But back in the day, when my posts started to first get shared very widely, I would go through a lot. It would be very overstimulating for me, and it would bring up a lot. Right. So I encourage you to, whether it is with my support in this program or whether it is in your own way, to not believe the story that because it feels uncomfortable that it's not for you, because sometimes the most aligned things are very challenging for us. Again, because it's your authentic self versus your conditioning. Your conditioning is going to make aligned things not feel comfortable for you. And for a lot of like spiritual people, this is honestly one of the biggest traps people get stuck in, is that they're just wanting things to feel good and they're thinking that it's misaligned because it takes a lot of effort. No, again, it takes a lot of effort because you haven't built that muscle, because you were conditioned to let that muscle atrophy. But once you build the muscle, then you'll feel, now it's like a bird flying, right? It's a bird singing. There's a level of flow and ease to it. So you will get there, but you need to support your system in getting comfortable while you're doing it. So I'm going to let that land, have a little hydration here. Feel free to ask any questions. Good question here, or comment, and I'm going to interpret it as a question from David. As a Gemini, I love Geminis, by the way. As a Gemini, because I love the mutability that you guys bring, right? Which is what you're saying. As a Gemini, I adapt to the people and places I'm in, and going live and unifying my voice has felt hard because I'm so mutable and people experience me that way. Well, why did I just say I love Geminis? Because Geminis are very honest people in their high expression. They're honest like a child is honest. Like a child's like, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm tired, I'm sad. It's a dynamic participation in the moment. One of my favorite astrologers is a Gemini, and she is able to speak on many different topics. Right? She kind of integrates her politics, she integrates her spirituality, she does astrology in a completely unique way. So this is what the idea that you have to like pick a niche or be organized in a way that's not natural to you is another belief that a lot of people have to work through when going online. Because you are here. If you are a Gemini, you are supposed to be a Gemini. You are supposed to have multiple interests. You are supposed to bop around. And you can feel like, even in the way that I talk, I'm telling you one main thing. If you're called to be on social media right now, please do it. And here's some of the things that you need to figure out how to navigate. And I'm weaving in a whole bunch of like metaphors and stories. I'm having fun while I'm talking. And honestly, most people are so backed up. They are so backed up that it can feel extremely intense to start to share. Because picture like a really pressurized container, and then you have to start off-gassing it, where it's, like gas in a pressurized container, and you off-gas, you let a little bit out, because if you just let it all out, it would like explode, or just it wouldn't be possible. So what I find, and this is a good thing to look for, if you can look at other people and say, I would be doing it differently, or if you feel like you have so much to say that you don't even know where to start, you need to start. You need to start making the road by walking it. You need to say, there's a million things that I want to say, and so I'm going to start, as Anne Lamott would say, bird by bird, saying each one of these million things over time. And this is why people have social media, they have podcasts, they have books, right? Social media is not the end all be all, but it is where you work through your fears. It is where you find your voice, and it is where people discover you so that you can go deeper in, whatever it is that you're offering. So what if it wasn't a problem that you are adaptable? And there's probably a balance here for you, David, because there is an element where you actually need to be okay being about what you're about, and not, because like what I'm hearing is that it's actually quite vulnerable to go online and not be able to attune to the reactions of people and modulate your tone, because you just have to like let it rip and see what happens. So there's a vulnerability there that you might be working through. You might be a Chiron and Gemini person with that. And also, Walt Whitman. Do I contradict myself? Well, very well then, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. That's going to be your mantra. And your people are going to say, oh my God, I love that you talk about so many different things. I love that there's space for nuance. This is what we're going to do in the program, is like look at energetically what we feel like we have to be on social media. A lot of us feel like we have to like step up to a podium with our notes and be like, yeah, okay, there you go. Step up with our notes to a podium and say, hear ye, everybody. This is my statement on this subject, which is different than a more casual energy, a more adaptable energy where you are workshopping ideas. And, it's kind of like the difference when you feel like you have to put on a show for your friends and be like, oh, I'm hanging out with this person, overthinking what I'm saying, versus just being in the flow. And a related topic that I want to, or point that I want to make here is that, so one of the points is, if you feel like you have so much to say and it doesn't make sense, you need to start sharing, because you can't get ducks in a row until they're in motion. So there's all this energy and it's not going to find a coherent form until it's like you're thinking about every possible note you could play on an instrument. You need to start playing. You need to start playing, my friend. And that's where a lot of the freedom is going to be, as you give yourself a place where you are free to be yourself. And that, I like to say that social media is not about you at all. It's literally not, because it's about you being a conduit for a message that wants to be shared through you. It doesn't matter. It's just you're the conduit. And it's also completely about you, because it is about you getting to be free. It's about the fact that there are so many different places in this world that have told you that you are not allowed to be yourself, and that there's something wrong with you for all that you are. And when you start to share online and you continually kind of unmask And I've gone through so many layers of this. I'm about to go through more. I got some posts cooking where I'm like, here's everything I haven't talked about, right? Here's more that I want to be honest about, right? This is also what we're going to do in the program is like, what's that line for you? What's your nervous system's tolerance and around vulnerability? What's the line between oversharing and vulnerability? Because you also have time, right? You don't have to expose everything right away. But when you create a space where you're like the parent and the child. Like, this is my house. If people act in a way that is not in alignment with my values, they don't get to stay. If people are mean to you, they don't get to stay. If people judge you and are cruel to you, they don't get to stay. And so that creates safety. I get to be who I am, and so do you. And that's where social media can start to feel like a trap for people. And that's where I'll often have clients who've already built quite a platform will come to me because they're like, I built a prison cell. I built this thing where like people expect a certain version of me, but it's not all that I am. So we get to build something where we feel free. So it is not about you, but it's also completely about you. I'll answer this question about human design. I'm a 4/6 splenic projector. We're going to go very deep into human design. I'm going to give everybody in the program a custom report, human design, astrology, gene keys, and what that means for you, and in terms of your voice and how you're meant to be sharing. And we'll use that just as a tool because it's mostly going to confirm what is already natural to you, but it can often help unlock certain pieces. But we're not just going to say, mentally, we can see this in your chart, so you have to do it this way. No. Amazing. Someone says, I spoke in my Insta story for the first time today. I was testing my nervous system and it did well. I feel proud of myself. Amazing. Congrats. That's really exciting. Good. And that's great. There's many ways to work with this energy as well, where you're like, okay, let me try it on stories before I put it on the main. Let me let it rip on TikTok where no one knows who I am before I bring it to Instagram. Someone says, I'm a 6'2" and figuring out how to share my story and how to bridge it to others. I love to speak from my heart to my younger self, but it feels like it feels more like I should say my story. You're going to do all of it. You're going to do all of it. Look what I do, right? Here I am sharing, and I'm weaving my story. I feel the tension of how much more of my story I could tell you. Oh my God, we could talk. This is why I have a platform. I could talk to you for 14 hours. We could talk all day. I could tell you a million different things I've been through, and they would all help you, right? And sometimes I just come on here and I say, yo, I got a message for you. And it's not as connected to my story. And as a 6'2", you're here to be a teacher. So you will use your story as a teaching tool, but you need to be comfortable. Tell me what your, we'll use this as a little case study. You tell me if you're a projector or generator, like what your type is. But as a 6'2", the 6 is a teacher, right? So people actually want you to say, hey, if you're navigating this, please do X, Y, Z, right? People want to hear that information from you. Okay. Another point that I wanted to make is that we're making the point about if you have too many ideas and you're using that as an excuse, you just need to start sharing. You need to off gas. You need to have your own creative practice where you are writing and speaking for yourself, and then you need to let it rip online. Honestly, it's like, because how has it been working for you to hold back? How has it been working for you to censor and to like wait and try to figure it out? It's literally torturing you, which is why this is resonating with you. There's a part of you that's like, oh my God, if I have to journal about this or like hire another coach, or, what if I just start talking? What if I just say, God, what would you have me share every day? And I just keep going until I start to understand more about what I'm doing. It's like you're getting in the studio every day as an artist. So we talk about if you have too many ideas, if you have not enough ideas, if you're like, what would I possibly share? This is also a doing problem. Of course, all the nervous system work is going to help, because sometimes you're just telling yourself this story because it's the most convenient thing that your inner child can tell you to keep you from doing what it's scared for you to do. Major point there. Just let that land. Just felt that hit a bunch of people. Yeah, whatever your excuse is just what your nervous system is using as an excuse so that you don't do the thing that you're scared to do, which we can have a lot of compassion for. because you're literally trying to keep yourself alive. But the thing is that the rules have changed, and in order for you to actually live a life that feels like life and not like death, you need to express yourself. So the feeling of I don't have enough to share, that is also about not being positioned to be a conduit. God does not give ideas to people who aren't going to share them. You have a few ideas. You're like, I don't have that much to say. You have the first few things you're going to say, and you need to say them. And then as you do it, anytime I go through phases where I'm not posting online as much, which I've gone through phases where I've done that because my energy's been elsewhere, because there's been interference in my life, because I've just been focused on like building. I've been spending a lot of energy building curriculum over the last few years, or it'll even just be like a week where my energy's less focused on these platforms. The ideas will start to kind of go down, and then as soon as I say, okay, I'm ready to go, boom. I literally like have to keep a piece of paper and a pen on me at all times because of how many ideas I get. So as you become someone who is a trustworthy conduit, you will be given better ideas, and you will be given, it's like, if you're not going to do your job, why would you get the tools to do your job? Straight up. Like, if you're not going to accept the job offer, why would they give you the computer that you're going to do the job on? Why would they give you a desk at the office? Why would they give you a mentor who's going to help you if you're not actually going to do the job? So some of this is the choice where you're like, I'm really going to do it. And then the ideas start to come. And that when that tap goes on, it starts cranking. And in the program that I'm leading, this small group coaching program for people who are right now, like starting in the next few weeks, really stepping forward and want support in doing that, we're just going to take a lot of different approaches to content. We're going to take a lot of different approaches to you finding your style, because again, with the Gemini energy, we want to be loose about it, right? We don't want it to feel like, oh, I gotta just figure it all out and just execute. This actually gets to be fun. Okay, let me see what y'all are saying. Generator, yeah. So this person who is a 6'2", who I was speaking to before, is a generator, which means that generators and MGs in particular, manifesting generators, y'all have a lot to say, right? And you can kind of drop off a lot of content for people. Your people are not going to be overwhelmed if you're lit up about it. But if you're like, it feels like you're pulling teeth, right? If you're not actually excited about what you're talking about, people will feel that. Beautiful. This really resonates. Same thoughts. I don't need more journaling or another coach. I need to speak and share as much as possible. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. And I understand the paradox of what I'm saying about, like, you don't need another, like, what is my messaging style coach? You don't need another, like, Instagram ad served thing that's telling you, use these prompts to grow your audience. Like, my intention in running this program for people is I understand the power of a group field. So it's kind of like we're like a pod of dolphins and we're swimming out to open ocean. We're like getting through the current, like we're getting through the like riptide, and we're creating like a force field together, and we're all going to go together. So there's a hugely supportive energy of not doing it by yourself. And I wish I had that, because a lot of the support that I had was like kind of people just vaguely telling me to start, and then people giving me too many mental ideas about what I was supposed to share rather than helping me connect with like what I was really here to share. And that deeper knowing. Beautiful. So I'm feeling that we're coming towards the end of this. So if there's any other questions live, please feel free to share those. Where can you take this test? What does someone do if they don't know their birth date? Just type in free human design chart. Go to Jovian Archive. That's the page of Ra, who's the one who channeled it. That's his like organization. And if you don't know your birth time, human design is more challenging because it changes throughout the day. So I would actually recommend, human design it's the same math as astrology. So if you don't know your birth time, I would, if you're in a position where you can order a birth chart or your birth certificate, I think it's called Vital Records in the US. You can order your birth certificate and see what time is on there. Or you can do a birth chart rectification, with an astrologer who basically, astrology is wild. They will go through key life events and when they happened, and based on that they can retroactively calculate your birth time, because there are signs. I know people who they're twins, but they have different rising signs and their lives could not be more different. You're a manifesting generator, but you don't know what that fully means yet. Yeah, manifesting generator, you've got a lot of energy. You're here to fire on multiple cylinders at once. Don't let anybody tell you have to pick one thing. You are like a completely unique combination, and you need to follow what feels most alive for you, right? So anything that feels like, because you're generators and manifesting generators, you're the kind of people who can run on like 3 hours of sleep if you really care about something, but you could get 10 hours of sleep, and then if there's something that's not actually aligned for you to do, you're going to feel like you have no energy for it. So when it comes to social media, generators and manifesting generators, important to be inspired about what you're doing, as well as good to create conditions in which you can be being prompted to respond, because your energy works best in response. So generators in my life, I've got a bunch of great clients who are generators, and I've learned that I have to give them one option at a time. So I can't just say like, I was talking to a generator the other day who was deciding which social media platform she was going to use. She was like, am I going to use this account or that account? To a projector or reflector or manifestor, I would just say like, what feels best? To a generator, I would say, okay, option 1, feel the energy of your first Instagram account. Does that feel good to post there? Yes or no? Gut response. Yes. Okay. No. Next account, does it feel good? Yes or no? Right? So, and then getting into a flow where people are asking you questions, and it's kind of like starting a volleyball match with yourself. At first, you have to kind of volley yourself things to respond to. But if if we work together, I do that a lot with my generators, is I throw stuff to them so they can respond. And then all of a sudden they have clarity about what they're going to say. David says, I got to find a way to not do this alone. Yeah. Good that you understand that. Reach out if you want to be part of the group. I think it actually could be a good fit for you. And in general, so like I hear you saying that from like a coaching standpoint or a like community and support standpoint of you don't need to go it alone in moving forward in sharing and building a platform. And this is also why social media is amazing, because you get to build your community. You're saying, I like the idea of a talk show for the partnership, like being in that response. Social media can be your talk show. Maybe you're going to start an actual talk show or a podcast, or you're going to use YouTube or whatever, or a different type of platform. But if you show up as a version of you who already has something worthwhile to say on a regular basis, and you invite people into that conversation, and then you start to essentially train them to expect that you will answer their questions or that there will be an ongoing dialogue. It's like this has democratized the ability to connect with your people. It's why a lot of people are self-publishing now. Media is completely changing because you can just do it by yourself. And honestly, like the algorithms have changed a lot in the last few years in a way where I actually think it's easier. I think it's easier to reach your people than it was many years ago. Because they push content based on resonance. And we're going to do this in the program too, is like the Jedi tricks that you can do to actually have your content go to the right people. And then you start to have this feeling people over and over and over and over again. I needed to hear this today. I needed to hear this today. I needed to hear this today. Some of you are probably thinking, thank God Aaron went live today. He's usually not online on Saturday, but I needed to hear this today. Yeah, because I listen. Yeah, what is stopping me is the need to do it right, meaning from my head, not from my soul. I feel how my nervous system is trying to find safety in that. Yeah, so once you clock that, it's like that excuse has no power over you anymore. Once you clock that, it's game over, right? You have a conscious choice to make. Okay, so I understand now that my soul is calling me. So based on the fact that my soul is calling me, what will I do? Okay, I'm going to do nervous system healing work every single day. I'm going to get support and be part of a community. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to literally just make my own little routine. Give myself a hug every single day. Talk to my inner child. Regulate my nervous system. Create a sense of safety doing the thing that previously wasn't safe. Ship messy drafts of things that don't feel 100% perfect, because how could they be? I actually encourage you to go back to the beginning of this profile, because I just started growing this account like a couple months ago, and the first videos that you'll see, I invite you to see if there's like a difference in my energy between how I look there and how I look now, because I was kind of like thawing out of not doing face-to-camera videos for a long time. I would do lives regularly, but the energy of like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, like boom, I got a message for you, let's go. I had not done that in quite some time. And I was also, I was working through whatever additional layers were there for me of like, because you can tell in people's voice how comfortable they feel, how ready they are for something to go to the whole world. And you might be able to notice, okay, I can see Aaron's energy is like a little bit pulled back here, and how much that has changed even in a couple of months of saying yes to this next season of expansion. And by the way, we all have different seasons as well. So please, do not judge yourself for not doing this until now. What if now is the perfect time? I was basically not on social media for most of 2023. I left Instagram. There have been different phases where it has not been correct for me, but if you are in devotion to your soul's call and you're listening and every day you're saying, God, use me as you would for the highest good of all, then you will hear the call, right? And I now really understand the energy of when the mic is starting to come back around to me on a bigger level. And I've been feeling that. I've been feeling that for 6 months. I've been building. So let's let that land for a sec. Any final questions? I feel now is the time for me. I've worked through a lot of things. Finally, I feel like doing it. Amazing. And it gets to be fun. It does get to feel like you have a really good friend, right? You have a place where it's actually safe for you to be yourself. Last point that I feel called to make for some of you is that this is also about your gifts. I see our gifts like divine children. And some of your gifts, you have been having those gifts essentially play like a local gig. It's like you have a kid who's supposed to be an international superstar, and you're just only letting them sing at church. You're only letting them sing at the local open mic. And everybody at the open mic's you're amazing, your kid's amazing, I love this song's so great. And then they're can I listen to the song? Can you put it on Spotify? Can you put it on SoundCloud? Can you put it out there? And you're oh no, we're just not really public people, right? You're doing that with your medicine, with your message, with the work that you are doing, right? And clarify what you mean in this question. How do you know that? How do you know if your gifts are meant to be shared more widely? Well, most of us, our gifts are meant to be shared more widely. Most of us are basically hoarding our gifts, basically keeping them inorganically capped because we're scared of expansion. I do know a few people, there are people in my life where they are undercover Jedis, and that is how they are meant to operate. But your life should function very well when doing that. I'm really just thinking of one friend. She's total Jedi, very talented healer, and her life works great. She is very happy, right? She is very fulfilled. She's undeniably living her calling, and when it comes to her soul's gifts. And actually, she'll probably end up sharing more and sharing her art more widely, but things are flowing well. If things are not flowing well, if you're why isn't my business working? Why don't I have resonant community? Why does everyone around me judge me and kind of hate me? Why Do I feel this existential dread that I'm not living up to my full potential? Why do I spend a lot of time on social media? Why, if I wasn't scared, would I be very happy to have 100,000 followers who were happy to hear what I had to say? Like, if it's keeping you up at night, if it's a constant question and your life is stagnant and you're like, there's only a few people who see what I'm doing and appreciate it, then it is your responsibility to make that available to more people in a way that is aligned for you. And if you're questioning what is aligned for me, that's what we're going to do in this program. Everyone in the program gets a one-on-one with me. It's going to be small group coaching. So I'm going to really be able to, and I'm a projector, so I can read your whole blueprint, right? I see what is aligned for you. And also I'm a coach in the sense that I'm not going to prescribe something to you, right? I'm just going to help you find that resonance of truth within yourself, right? And it's an empowerment initiation. It is an initiation of becoming who your soul really came here to be, because you are too bright and too amazing to have your life stop with the feeling of, I just don't know what aligned social media content is. It's you letting your energy reach more people one way or another. And you're only going to figure it out by doing it, getting in the, like, playing some out of tune notes until you find the note that is in tune. Amazing. David says, I finally cleared so much stagnant energy, moved to a space that is mine. Cleaning my physical and emotional house is bringing me back to have the space in me for more being. Yeah, a lot of us have been going through big life reorgs, right? I just went through a massive life reorg, and that is related to the calling, right? It is related to the expansion that is being required of us at this time, right? So another thing to look at in terms of whether or not this is the time for you to be stepping forward is basically, is everything stalled and stagnated and you keep thinking about sharing, right? That's a good indicator. And also, right, have you been feeling I am meant for more, and then things in your life that wanted you to be less have been leaving? That's also a good indicator, because you're getting ready. I'm so glad. Fleur says, I feel like this live and your previous one were the little pushes I needed. You're so welcome. This is what we get to do, right? I don't even know where half y'all are in the world. We're all over the place. It's light where I am. It's probably dark where some of you are. And yet here we are. And so this is, we will in the program get into, there is distortion in social media. These apps are being used to siphon people's energy 100%. Literally, like all of life. Many social interactions, online or not, are just distorted energy exchanges. Are we not going to interact with people? No. We are. We're going to learn how to do it. We're going to be Jedis. We're going to learn how to manage our energy. Right? And we're going to learn how to be able to tolerate greater risk. Amazing. We got Denmark in the house. Beautiful. We're going to learn how to Prague. Amazing. Y'all all over the place. Lighten up the grid. And we're going to do that tomorrow, by the way, in like 20 hours. 21 hours. We're going to do a Future World meditation live for the first time in quite some time. We got Europe in the house right now. Amazing. So I invite you to come for that. It'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is New York City time, and then 10 a.m. Pacific time, Los Angeles time. And we're gonna light up the grids. We're gonna bless our human family. Beautiful. We got multiple Netherlands people. Cool. Okay. David says, you're good at owning this space and being in a different energy so people experience that. Yeah. And how did I learn how to do that? Through practicing, right? Beautiful. Germany, Spain. Y'all, we got Europe in the house. Thank you to our European light beings who are holding it down over there. Yeah. Would I suggest trying to post without waiting for perfect guidance? I would suggest learning how to receive guidance and learning what the feeling of truth is like in your being. I would suggest focusing on what is something that you wish your younger self knew and sharing that without overthinking whether it is perfect. I would suggest defining perfect as I feel a resonance of truth in my being, and I know that if my younger self were to see this, it would help them, even if I feel crazy while I post it. Yeah. Beautiful. All right, y'all. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for sharing where you're at. Thank you to our European squad, holding it down. And thank you all for participating in this conversation. This is a very particular, just like how I teach about business, right? It's not about business. It's not about social media. It's about what is the proper conduit at this moment for what you're here to share with the world, and not letting, this is the last like boom I'm going to land right now, not letting the distortions of the world keep you from contributing the thing that would actually dissolve and transform those distortions. So, relationships are distorted. Guess you're going to learn how to be in a healthy relationship. Social media is weird, but you keep feeling called to be on here. I guess you're going to learn how to be a Jedi, not be a consumer on this app, just be a creator, drop off beautiful energy for your people, use this rather than being used by it, and be part of the solution. You're on Earth and there's all kinds of weird things happening here. I guess you're here to be part of the solution. It's all a fractal, right? And so we can get into that place of deep empowerment with this, and to not let the conditions of this world keep us from being who we're here to be. And that is, on a certain level, one of the whole big parts of this mission, is being the cause rather than the effect. Trusting God more than we trust the projection of the fear that is here. And on that note, we're going to wrap this up. I love you all so much. Thank you to everybody who was here, who participated. Bless everybody on the replay. Please feel free to drop a comment what resonated with you. And I encourage you, as I do at the end of everything that I do, what inspired you and what are you going to go do about it right now? Even if you're in Europe and it's bedtime, what are you going to do right now? Because something was cultivated here. You're going to feel this energy in you. When I turn off this live and you turn off your phone, there's still going to be something moving. Where does it want to go, right? Because you can use this energy to bust through a block right now. You can use it to do something that you haven't given yourself permission to do before. So please go do that for the highest good of you and for the highest good of all. And if you want to have deeper support in this process of stepping forward, you're resonating with me as a teacher on this, please reach out about the group program that is starting soon, and I will send you all the details. And I'll see you back here on live for our future world meditation tomorrow. All right. Much love. Take care, y'all.